The text was supposed to go to Ben, her ex, the father who'd walked away the day she'd peed on the stick. Instead, at 11:47 p.m. on a Tuesday in September, with her 7-month-old son screaming from hunger, and her bank account reading $11.32. Lena Park's desperate plea for $50 landed in the pocket of Atlas Keene, a man worth $3 billion. His reply came in 4 words. How much do you need? By sunrise, her life had pivoted on the axis of a single mistake, one that would drag her into a corporate war force, her to choose between silence and survival, and prove that sometimes the wrong number is exactly right. If you want to see how far a midnight accident can travel, stay with me until the end. And drop a comment with your city. I want to know where this story reaches. The lights went out at 11:34 p.m. Lena Park stood in the middle of her studio apartment, if you could call 400 square feet of water-stained ceiling and a kitchenette with 2 working burners, an apartment, and watched the digital clock on the microwave blink into darkness. The hum of the refrigerator died. The box fan in the window stopped mid-rotation. And in the sudden, suffocating silence, Kai started to cry. Not the fussy, half-hearted whimper he made when he wanted to be held. This was the full-throated, red-faced wail of a baby who hadn't eaten in 6 hours, whose last bottle had been stretched with an extra 2 ounces of water because the formula canister had run empty that morning. Shh, baby, shh. Lena scooped him from the portable crib wedged between her bed and the bathroom door. His little body was rigid with hunger, his fists batting against her shoulder. I know, sweetheart. She bounced him, swaying in the dark, her phone's flashlight casting jittery shadows across the peeling wallpaper. Kai's cries sharpened. Her milk had dried up 3 months ago, stress the pediatrician had said, as if knowing the cause made it hurt less, and formula was $32 a canister. She'd been rationing it for a week. Lena pressed her forehead against Kai's and felt the tears coming hot and furious. She'd been a biochem analyst once. She'd had a salary of 401k health insurance that didn't lapse every other month. Then the pregnancy. Then the restructuring that somehow only restructured her out the door. Then Ben, who'd promised he'd help, who'd sent 2 payments before his number went dead. Kai screamed. Okay. Her voice cracked. Mommy's going to fix this. She grabbed her phone with shaking hands, opened her contacts and scrolled to the B's. Ben's name sat there like a curse. She hadn't texted him in 2 months, not since he'd sent back a single message. Stop asking. But it was 11:42 p.m., and her son was starving, and pride was a luxury she couldn't afford. Her thumbs moved across the screen. Ben. I know you don't want to hear from me, but Kai needs formula. I just need $50 to get through the week. Please. She hit send before she could second-guess it. The message went through with a soft whoosh. Lena exhaled, her breath hitching. Kai's cries had settled into hiccuping sobs. She rocked him, staring at the screen, waiting for the 3 dots that would mean Ben had seen it, that maybe he'd remember he had a son. The dots didn't come. 1 minute. 2. Kai started wailing again. Come on, Lena whispered. Come on. At 11:47 p.m., her phone buzzed. She nearly dropped it. The notification flashed across the lock screen, and her heart lurched until she read the name. Unknown number. Her stomach sank. Wrong contact. She must have clicked the wrong name. She opened the message thread with dread coiling in her chest, but the reply wasn't angry. It wasn't confused. It said, How much do you need? Lena stared at the words. Read them again. Her pulse hammered in her ears. How much do you need? She scrolled up. The message she'd sent sat above it, time-stamped 11:42 p.m. Her plea, her humiliation, sent to a stranger. Her first instinct was to apologize, to delete the thread, and pretend it had never happened. But Kai squirmed in her arms, his cries thinning into exhausted wheezes, and the question sat there on her screen like a life raft in open water. How much do you need? Her hands trembled as she typed. I'm so sorry. I texted the wrong person. Please ignore this. The reply came in seconds. You asked for $50. Is that enough? Lena's breath caught. She looked around the dark apartment, at the empty formula canister on the counter, at the overdue bills stacked on the coffee table, at her son's thin face pressed against her collarbone, and something cracked inside her. Yes, $50 would help. But I can't. Another buzz. Venmo. She felt like she was falling. This wasn't real. This was a scam. A setup. Strangers didn't just offer money to someone who'd texted them by accident at midnight. And yet, at Lena Park 80, she typed the username she'd made when Venmo still felt like a fun way to split brunch bills. The three dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. Then no strings. Get what your son needs. Lena's throat closed. She couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. Her thumb hovered over the keyboard, 100 questions crowding her mind. Who are you? Why are you doing this? What do you want from me? But before she could type any of them, her phone buzzed with a new notification. Venmo. You received $5,000 from Atlas Keen. The number didn't process at first. Lena blinked at the screen. 5,000, not 50. $5,000. Her knees buckled. She sat down hard on the edge of the bed, Kai still wailing in her arms, and stared at the notification until the words stopped making sense. This was a mistake. It had to be. You didn't just... Her phone buzzed again. Formula diapers rent. Whatever Kai needs. You don't owe me anything. Lena's hands were shaking so hard she nearly dropped the phone. She tried to type a response. This is too much. I can't accept this. Who are you? But her fingers wouldn't cooperate. Tears blurred her vision. Thank you, she finally managed. I don't know what to say. Thank you. The reply was almost instant. Say you'll use it. That's all I need to hear. And then, a moment later, there's a delivery coming in the morning, 8 a.m. Be ready. Lena's breath hitched. What? She whispered aloud. What delivery, she typed. No response. The three dots didn't reappear. The thread went silent. She sat there in the dark, her son's cries finally softening into exhausted sniffles, and tried to make sense of what had just happened. $5,000. A stranger. A delivery. At 11:52 p.m., Lena opened her Venmo app with trembling hands and stared at the name attached to the transfer. Atlas Keen. The name rang a bell, faint, distant, like something she'd heard on the news once and forgotten. She switched to her browser and typed it in. The results loaded slowly on her cracked screen. Atlas Keen, founder and CEO, Keen Labs. Net worth $3.2 billion. Biotech innovations. Seattle-based. Media-shy philanthropist. A photo, a man in his late 30s. Dark hair, sharp jaw, eyes that looked like they could see through walls. He stood in front of a glass building, hands in his pockets, expression unreadable. Lena's chest tightened. A billionaire. She'd texted a billionaire by accident, and he'd sent her $5,000. No strings, she whispered, reading his message again. Her son had stopped crying, his tiny body slack with exhaustion against her chest. She kissed the top of his head, her tears falling into his soft hair. At 8:03 a.m., someone knocked on the door. Lena had been awake since 6, pacing the apartment, Kai dozing in her arms. She hadn't slept. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the number $5,000 and wondered when she'd wake up and find it gone. But the Venmo app still showed the transfer. Real. Permanent. The knock came again, firm and professional. Lena opened the door. 2 delivery drivers stood in the hallway, both holding stacks of boxes. Behind them, she could see more boxes lining the corridor. A dozen. Maybe more. Delivery for Lena Park, the first driver said, glancing at his tablet. What is all this? Don't know, ma'am. Just have a signature here. She signed in a daze. The drivers worked quickly, stacking boxes inside her apartment until the small space looked like a warehouse. When they left, Lena stood in the middle of the chaos, Kai fussing on her hip, and stared. She opened the first box. Formula. 6 canisters of the organic kind she couldn't afford, the kind the pediatrician recommended. The second box, diapers. Size 3. 4 packs. The third, baby clothes. Soft onesies in blues and greens, tiny socks, a fleece jacket. The fourth, groceries. Real food. Pasta, canned goods, fresh produce packed in insulated bags. Lena's knees gave out. She sank onto the floor surrounded by boxes and covered her mouth with her hand. This wasn't charity. This was seeing her. Someone had looked at her desperate midnight text and understood exactly what she needed. Not pity, but practical, immediate help. At the bottom of the last box, she found an envelope. Inside, a handwritten note on thick cardstock. Kai deserves better than watered-down bottles. You both do. If you're willing, I'd like to meet. Tomorrow, 11 a.m. Keen Labs, downtown Seattle. Ask for Ava Lynn at the front desk. No obligations, no strings, just a conversation. A.K. Lena read the note 3 times. Her hands shook. Kai cooed, reaching for the cardstock, and she pulled it away gently. A conversation, she murmured. She looked around at the boxes, at the formula, the diapers, the food, at the $5,000 sitting in her Venmo account, at the note that promised nothing and everything. And she thought, what do I have to lose? The offices of Keen Labs occupied the top 12 floors of a glass tower in downtown Seattle. Lena had taken the bus, Kai strapped to her chest in the carrier she'd bought secondhand 3 months ago. She'd worn her only professional outfit, black slacks, and a blouse that didn't have spit-up stains, and tried to ignore the way her stomach twisted into knots. The lobby was all marble and soft lighting, the kind of place where even the air felt expensive. Lena approached the reception desk, Kai squirming against her. Hi, I'm here to see Ava Lynn. The receptionist, a woman in her 20s with perfect eyeliner, smiled. Name, Lena Park. The receptionist's expression shifted just slightly, a flicker of recognition. Of course, Ms. Lynn is expecting you. 15th floor. The elevator bank is to your right. Lena's heart hammered. She adjusted Kai's carrier and headed for the elevators, her reflection ghosting across the polished floor. She looked small, out of place. The elevator doors opened with a soft chime. Inside, a woman waited, mid-30s, tailored gray suit hair pulled into a sleek bun. She smiled when Lena stepped in. Lena Park. Lena nodded, her throat dry. I'm Ava Lynn, Chief of Staff. Ava extended her hand, and Lena shook it, hyper-aware of how clammy her palm was. Thank you for coming. Of course. Thank you. For the everything. Ava's smile softened. Atlas will explain. She glanced at Kai, who was gnawing on his fist. How old? 7 months. He's beautiful. The elevator climbed. Lena's pulse thudded in her ears. When the doors opened on the 15th floor, she followed Ava into a space that felt more like a tech startup than a biotech company. Open floor plan, glass-walled conference rooms. Employees clustered around standing desks. Ava led her down a hallway to a corner office. She knocked once and opened the door. The man from the photo stood by the window. Atlas Keen was taller in person, dressed in a simple black sweater and jeans, his hands in his pockets. He turned when Lena entered, and his eyes, gray-sharp, impossibly calm, met hers. Ms. Park, he said. His voice was low, warm. Thank you for coming. Lena's mouth had gone dry. I thank you. For everything. I don't know how to... You don't have to thank me. He gestured to the sitting area near the window. Please, sit. She sank onto the leather couch, Kai stirring against her chest. Atlas sat across from her, leaning forward slightly, his expression unreadable. I'm sure you have questions, he said. Lena let out a shaky laugh. A few. Let me start with this. You don't owe me anything. Not gratitude, not repayment, nothing. She stared at him. Then why? Because I could, he said simply. And because your text reminded me of something I used to know, that desperation doesn't discriminate. It doesn't care if you have a degree or a work history. It just asks if you can survive the night. Lena's throat tightened. I wasn't. You were honest, Atlas said. You asked for $50 to feed your son. That's not desperation. That's love. Kai made a soft sound, and Lena looked down, blinking hard. I have a proposition, Atlas said after a moment. But I want to be clear, this isn't conditional on the money I sent you. That's yours. Done. Lena looked up. A proposition. He nodded. I've been looking for someone with a background in biochem analysis. Someone who understands systems, who can think critically under pressure. He paused. Ava ran a background check. I hope you'll forgive the intrusion, but I needed to be sure. Your resume is impressive. MIT undergrad. 3 years at GenCorp. You left 6 months ago. Lena's face flushed. I didn't leave. I was let go. I know. His gaze didn't waver. And I know why. Pregnancy discrimination isn't subtle, even when they call it restructuring. Her chest tightened. So, what do you want? I want to offer you a job. Lena blinked. A job. 3-month trial, flexible hours, fully remote with occasional on-site days. And he stood, crossing to the door. Come with me. She followed him down the hall, her heart pounding. He stopped at a door labeled Childcare Annex and opened it. Inside was a nursery. Soft lighting, cribs, changing tables, a play area with foam mats and toys, a kitchenette stocked with bottles and formula. Lena's breath caught. We have 6 employees with young children, Atlas said. This space is theirs to use whenever they need it. If you work here, it's yours too. She stared at the room, at the thought and care embedded in every detail, and felt something crack open inside her chest. Why are you doing this? She whispered. Atlas turned to face her. Because the world told you that needing help makes you less. And I don't believe that. He paused. I'm offering you a job because you're qualified, not because I pity you. Do you understand the difference? Lena's eyes burned. Yes. Then what do you say? She looked down at Kai, who was staring up at her with wide, curious eyes. She thought about the apartment, the overdue bills, the shame that had eaten at her for months. And she thought about the note. Kai deserves better. You both do. Yes, she whispered. I'll take the job. Atlas smiled, a real smile, the kind that reached his eyes. Welcome to Keen Labs, Ms. Park. Lena's first day began at 9:47 a.m. on a Thursday, 13 minutes late, because Kai had a blowout on the bus, and she'd had to change him in a coffee shop bathroom that smelled like bleach and old espresso. She arrived at Keen Labs, flustered, her diaper bag slung over one shoulder, Kai fussing against her chest. Ava met her in the lobby, with the kind of smile that suggested lateness wasn't a firing offense. Breathe, Ava said gently. You're not punching a clock here. Lena exhaled, her shoulders dropping half an inch. I'm sorry, he is a baby, Ava finished, which means chaos is the schedule. She gestured toward the elevators. Come on, let's get you set up. The 15th floor felt different in daylight, brighter, busier. Employees moved between desks with coffee mugs and laptops, their conversations a low hum beneath the soft jazz playing from hidden speakers. Ava led Lena to a workspace near the corner, a standing desk with dual monitors and a view of the Seattle skyline. This is yours, Ava said. Login credentials are in the envelope. It will walk you through the system setup in an hour, but first, she nodded toward the nursery. Get him settled. Lena stepped into the childcare annex, and the knot in her chest loosened. The room was empty except for a woman in her 40s arranging toys in a bin. She looked up and smiled. You must be Lena. I'm Grace. I run the annex. She wiped her hands on her jeans and crossed the room. And this must be Kai. Kai, who had been gnawing on Lena's collar, looked up at Grace with wide eyes. He's beautiful, Grace said. How's he with strangers? He's okay, Lena said carefully. He doesn't cry much, usually. Grace held out her hands. May I? Lena hesitated. She'd never left Kai with anyone except the pediatrician, but Grace's expression was patient kind. She transferred Kai into Grace's arms, her heart clenching as his little face scrunched in confusion. But he didn't cry. Grace bounced him gently, humming something soft, and Kai's expression smoothed. You're going to be just fine, buddy, Grace murmured. She looked at Lena. I'll buzz you if he needs you. Otherwise, he's in good hands. I promise. Lena nodded, her throat tight. She kissed Kai's forehead and forced herself to step back. Thank you. She returned to her desk, her hands shaking as she opened the envelope. Inside, login credentials, a welcome packet, and a handwritten note from Atlas. Take your time. Ask questions. You belong here. Lena's chest tightened. She powered on the monitors and logged in. The system interface loaded clean, intuitive, with tabs for financial reports, vendor databases, audit logs, and internal communications. An IT specialist named Marco appeared at her elbow within minutes, walking her through the navigation, with the kind of patience that suggested he'd done this 100 times. Any questions, just ping me, Marco said, handing her a laminated quick reference guide. Oh, and Atlas left a note in your inbox. Flagged priority. Lena's pulse jumped. She opened her email. The message was brief. Ms. Park, your role is to analyze vendor contracts and flag any inconsistencies. Start with the Q3 reports. Anything that feels off, I want to know. Bring anomalies directly to me. Not Ava. Not the CFO. Me. You have my direct line if you need it. AK. Lena read the message twice, her stomach fluttering. Bring anomalies directly to me. Why not the CFO? Wasn't that the normal chain of command? She opened the Q3 vendor report and started scrolling. The data was dense, hundreds of transactions, payments ranging from a few $100s to six figures. Her eyes adjusted to the rhythm of it, her old instincts from GenCorp kicking in. She'd spent 3 years doing this exact work, parsing spreadsheets, cross-referencing invoices, looking for the patterns that didn't fit. An hour in, Grace buzzed her. Kai's ready for a bottle. Lena stood so fast her chair rolled backward. She hurried to the nursery, where Kai was squirming in Grace's arms, his face red. He's a punctual eater, Grace said with a laugh, handing him over. Lena settled into the rocking chair by the window and fed him, her heartbeat slowing as Kai latched onto the bottle. Through the glass wall, she could see her desk, the monitors still glowing. This is real, she thought. This is actually happening. She burped. Kai changed him and laid him in one of the cribs. He fussed for a moment, then his eyes drifted shut. Lena returned to her desk. By lunchtime, she'd reviewed 2 months of vendor data. Nothing jumped out until she noticed a name that appeared 11 times across different expense categories. Apex Solutions, LLC. The amounts were small. $1 to $200 for IT consulting. $987 for office supplies. $450 for logistics support. Each transaction sat just below the $500 threshold that required secondary approval. Lena frowned. She opened a new tab and searched the vendor database. Apex Solutions had been added to the system 8 months ago. Address, Wilmington, Delaware. No website listed. No contact person beyond a generic email. Her pulse quickened. She pulled up the transaction history and cross-referenced the dates. Apex had been paid 43 times in the past 8 months, always in amounts between $800 and $1,499. Never over the threshold. Lena's breath caught. She'd seen this before at GenCorp. A junior accountant had been caught siphoning funds through fake vendors, keeping each transaction small enough to avoid audits. She grabbed her phone and texted the number Atlas had included in his email. Found something. Vendor name repeating below approval thresholds. Might be nothing. Should I dig deeper? The reply came in seconds. Yes. Pull everything you can on that vendor. I'll be at your desk in 10 minutes. Lena's hands trembled as she compiled the data transaction dates, amounts, approving managers. She was still pulling reports when Atlas appeared at her desk, his expression unreadable. Show me, he said. She turned the monitor toward him and walked him through it, the repetition, the threshold avoidance, the Delaware shell address. Atlas's jaw tightened. How many transactions total? 43 in 8 months, just under $60,000. He was silent for a moment, his eyes scanning the screen. Then, who approved these? Lena pulled up the approval logs. Her stomach dropped. Every transaction had been approved by the same person, Vincent Harmon, CFO. Vincent, Atlas murmured. His voice was flat, careful. Do you want me to? Keep digging, he said. But quietly. Don't mention this to anyone. Not Ava. Not Iti. Just me. Lena nodded, her pulse hammering. Okay. Atlas straightened his expression hard. You did good work, Ms. Park. He walked away, and Lena sat there staring at the screen, her heart pounding in her ears. The rhythm came faster than she expected. Mornings drop Kai at the nursery, settle at her desk, lose herself in the numbers. Afternoons, bottle breaks. Diaper changes. Stolen moments in the rocking chair while Kai dozed against her chest. Evenings, the bus ride home. The quiet apartment that felt less suffocating now that the rent was paid and the fridge was full. Lena worked late on Wednesday. Kai asleep in the crib behind her, and pulled every Apex Solutions transaction from the past year. 62 total. $74,000 spread across departments, IT, logistics, office management, even R&D. But when she tried to verify the services rendered, the trails went cold. No contracts, no deliverables. Just approvals from Vincent Harmon and payments processed through accounts payable. She was about to close the file when she noticed something else. The payments had started 9 months ago, 1 week after Vincent Harmon had been promoted to CFO. Lena's breath hitched. She opened a new search and pulled Harmon's employment record. 15 years at Keen Labs. Promoted from VP of Finance to CFO last January. Salary, $420,000. Stock options, another $1.2 million vested. Why would someone earning that much risk it for $74,000? Unless it wasn't about the money. She pulled up Apex's incorporation records, public data accessible through Delaware's business registry. The company had been registered 8 months ago. Owner, A. Mills, manager. Lena searched for A. Mills in Keen Labs' employee database. No matches. She widened the search to LinkedIn, Facebook, public records. Nothing. A. Mills didn't exist. Lena's hands were shaking. She screenshotted the incorporation record and texted Atlas. Apex Solutions is a shell. Owner doesn't exist. Started 1 week after Harmon became CFO. The reply came instantly. My office. Now. Lena stood, her legs unsteady. She glanced at Kai, still asleep, and caught Grace's eye through the glass. Grace nodded. I've got him. Lena walked to Atlas's office and knocked. Come in. He was standing by the window, his back to her. The city lights glittered beyond the glass. Close the door, he said. She did. Atlas turned. His face was carved from stone. How sure are you? 90%, Lena said. The pattern's too clean. The timing's too convenient. And the other 10%? Could be coincidence. Could be bad record keeping. Atlas shook his head slowly. I've known Vincent for 15 years. He built our financial infrastructure from the ground up. If he's dirty... He stopped. I need to be sure. What do you want me to do? He crossed to his desk and pulled a folder from the drawer. This is Vincent's personnel file. Every promotion, every performance review, every stock grant. He handed it to her. I need you to map his access privileges. If he's running a siphon, he's not doing it alone. Someone's helping him move the money. Lena's throat tightened. You want me to investigate your CFO? I want you to find the truth. His eyes locked on hers. And I need you to know this could get ugly. If Vincent catches wind of this before we have proof, he'll bury it. And he'll bury you with it. Lena's pulse hammered. Then why trust me? Because you don't owe him anything, Atlas said quietly. And because you're the only person in this building I know isn't on his payroll. The words hung between them. Okay, Lena whispered. I'll do it. She worked through the weekend. Kai played on a foam mat in her apartment, while Lena sat cross-legged on the floor, her laptop open. Vincent Harmon's digital footprint spread across 3 monitors she'd borrowed from IT. She traced his system access logs. He'd logged into the vendor database 47 times in the past 6 months, always after hours, always from his office terminal. She pulled his email records flagged by Atlas's override code and found threads with A. Mills dating back 9 months. The emails were vague transactional. Payment processed. Invoice attached. But the invoices were fake. Lena could see it in the line items' generic descriptions, no specifics, no backup documentation. She dug deeper. Vincent had created a secondary approval pathway in the financial system, one that routed sub-$1,500 transactions directly to accounts payable without secondary review. The pathway had been active for 8 months. Lena's stomach turned. This wasn't opportunistic theft. This was architecture. On Sunday night, she compiled everything into a report: transaction logs, email threads, system access, records the fake invoices, and sent it to Atlas. His reply came at 11:43 p.m. I need to see you tomorrow, 7 a.m. before anyone else gets in. Lena barely slept. She arrived at Keen Labs at 6:52 a.m. Kai strapped to her chest and found Atlas already in his office. Show me everything, he said. She walked him through it, the pattern, the emails, the approval pathway Vincent had built. Atlas's face darkened with every slide. When she finished, he sat back in his chair, his hands steepled beneath his chin. 74,000, he murmured. That's pocket change for him. I know, Lena said. That's what doesn't make sense. Atlas looked at her. Unless it's a test. Her breath caught. A test. To see if the system works. If he can move money without triggering alerts. He stood pacing to the window. Vincent's on the board. He knows every control we have in place. If he's building a siphon, he's building it for something bigger, Lena finished. The silence that followed felt like a held breath. I need you to keep digging, Atlas said. But carefully. Vincent can't know we're looking. What if he already does? Atlas's jaw tightened. Then we're out of time. Lena spent the next 2 weeks living in the data. She traced every vendor Vincent had approved in the past year, cross-referencing them against public business registries. 3 more shells appeared. Summit Consulting, Cascade Partners, Bridgepoint Services, all registered in Delaware, all with owners who didn't exist. Total siphoned $340,000. She documented everything, building a timeline that showed the escalation. Small transactions at first, then larger ones, the amounts creeping upward as Vincent gained confidence. But there was a problem. The money wasn't going to Vincent. Lena traced the outflows from Apex and the other shells. The funds moved through a web of transfers, offshore accounts, LLCs registered in Nevada and Wyoming before disappearing into accounts she couldn't access without a subpoena. On a Tuesday afternoon, she pinged Atlas. The money's not going to Harmon, it's going somewhere else. I can't trace it further without legal access. The reply came 10 minutes later. My office. Bring everything. She walked into his office and found him sitting across from a woman she didn't recognize, mid-50s. Sharp suit, a leather briefcase open on the desk. "Lena Park, this is Rachel Keller," Atlas said. "Forensic accountant. She works with the FBI." Lena's heart stopped. Keller stood and extended her hand. "Ms. Park, Atlas tells me you've been doing impressive work." Lena shook her hand numbly. "I thank you." "Show her what you found," Atlas said. Lena pulled up her laptop and walked Keller through the shells, the transactions, the approval pathways. Keller took notes, her expression unreadable. When Lena finished, Keller looked at Atlas. "This is board-level corruption. If Vincent's moving money like this, he's not acting alone." Atlas's face was stone. "I know." "You understand what this means," Keller said. "If we move forward, this becomes a federal investigation. Your company will be under scrutiny. Your board will fracture." "I understand." Keller turned to Lena. "How confident are you in this analysis?" Lena's throat was dry. 95%. "Then we need to move fast." Keller closed her briefcase. "I'll start the preliminary workup. In the meantime, She looked at Lena. "You don't talk to anyone about this. Not coworkers, not friends, no one." Lena nodded. Keller stood. "I'll be in touch." She left and Lena sat there, her pulse hammering. "You did the right thing," Atlas said quietly. "Did I?" Lena's voice cracked. "If this blows up—" "It was already blown," Atlas said. "You just found the crack." The cracks widened. 2 days later, Lena received a calendar invite, executive review meeting, 10 a.m. Thursday. Attendees: Atlas Keene, Vincent Harmon, Ava Lynn. Her stomach dropped. She pinged Atlas. "What's the meeting?" His reply was immediate. "Confrontation." "I'm telling him we know." Lena's hands shook. "Is that safe?" "No. But it's necessary. He needs to know we're not backing down." Thursday morning, Lena sat at her desk, unable to focus. Kai was with Grace, babbling happily in the nursery, oblivious to the fact that his mother's hands were trembling. At 9:58 a.m., Lena watched through the glass walls as Vincent Harmon stepped off the elevator. He was tall, mid-50s, with silver hair and the kind of confidence that came from 15 years of unchecked power. He carried a tablet under one arm and walked toward the conference room like he owned the building. Atlas and Ava were already inside. The door closed. Lena couldn't hear what was being said, but she could see Vincent's face through the glass, calm at first, then confused, then hard. His mouth moved sharp and fast. Atlas remained still, his expression unreadable. Then Vincent stood. He pointed at Atlas. His face flushed and walked out. The conference room door slammed. Lena's heart hammered. Vincent strode toward the elevators, his jaw set. But before he reached them, he stopped. Turned. His eyes scanned the floor and landed on Lena. For 3 seconds they stared at each other. Then Vincent smiled. It was the coldest thing Lena had ever seen. He stepped into the elevator and the doors closed. Lena's phone buzzed. "My office." "Now." She ran. Atlas was pacing when she arrived, his expression darker than she'd ever seen it. "What happened?" Lena asked. "He denied everything," Atlas said. "Called it a filing error. Said the shells were legitimate subcontractors and that the paperwork got lost in a system migration." "That's impossible. The pattern—" "I know." Atlas stopped pacing. "But here's the problem. Vincent's not just the CFO. He controls the board's audit committee. If he spins this as me targeting him out of paranoia, he can force a vote. And if the board sides with him—" "You lose control," Lena finished. "Worse. He buries the investigation and fires everyone who knows about it." His eyes met hers. "Including you." Lena's chest tightened. "So what do we do?" Atlas was silent for a long moment. Then, "We go public. Before he can." "Public. I'm calling an emergency board meeting. Tomorrow. I'm putting everything on the table, the shells, the siphon Keller's preliminary findings. And I'm asking the board to suspend Vincent pending a full investigation. Lena's breath caught. And if they say no? Atlas's smile was grim. Then we find out who else is dirty. That night, Lena couldn't sleep. She lay in bed, Kai curled against her chest and stared at the ceiling. Tomorrow, Atlas would walk into a room full of people who'd known Vincent Harmon for 15 years and accuse him of stealing from the company, and Lena's name would be on every piece of evidence. Her phone buzzed at 11:34 p.m. A text from an unknown number. You made a mistake. Lena's blood went cold. She sat up, her heart hammering. Who is this? The reply came instantly. Someone who knows what you've been digging into. Walk away, Ms. Park, or you'll lose more than your job. Lena's hands shook. She screenshotted the message and forwarded it to Atlas. His call came 30 seconds later. Pack a bag, he said, his voice tight. You and Kai, right now. What, why? Vincent knows you're the source, and if he's threatening you, he's not bluffing. A pause. There's a car outside your building, black sedan. Driver's name is Marcus. He's going to take you to a safe house. Atlas, I can't just... You can and you will, he said, and his voice softened. Please, Lena, let me keep you safe. Lena looked down at Kai asleep and perfect and felt her resolve harden. Okay, she whispered. She packed in 7 minutes, clothes, diapers, formula, her laptop. Marcus was waiting in the lobby, a man in his 40s with kind eyes and a gun on his hip. Ms. Park, he said, let's go. The safe house was a condo in Bellevue, 20 minutes outside the city. 2 bedrooms, a full kitchen, windows that overlooked the water. Marcus did a sweep of the rooms, then handed Lena a phone. This is a burner. Atlas's number is programmed in. You need anything, you call. Lena nodded, numb. Marcus left, and she locked the door behind him. She stood in the empty living room, Kai asleep in her arms, and felt the weight of what she'd started pressing down on her chest. Her phone, her real phone, buzzed. Another text from the unknown number. Last warning. Lena didn't reply. She turned off the phone, set it on the counter, and held her son close. Outside, the city lights glittered like 1,000 tiny battles, and tomorrow, she thought, the war would begin. The morning light came gray and cold through the safe house windows. Lena had managed 2 hours of sleep, both of them fractured by nightmares where Vincent Harmon's smile followed her through endless corridors. Kai woke at 5:43 a.m., hungry and fussy, and she fed him on the couch while watching the sunrise paint the water gold. Her burner phone rang at 6:17. It's me, Atlas said. His voice was rough, like he hadn't slept either. The board meeting's at 10. Are you okay? Define okay, Lena said quietly. Fair. A pause. I need you to know something. What you've done, what you've found, it's going to save this company. No matter what happens today. Lena's throat tightened. What if they don't believe us? Then we make them believe. His voice hardened. Vincent's spent 15 years building trust. We're going to spend 2 hours destroying it. After they hung up, Lena tried to log into her work account on her laptop. She needed to review the evidence one more time to make sure every detail was airtight. The login screen appeared. She entered her credentials. Access denied. Please contact your system administrator. Her stomach dropped. She tried again. Same error. Atlas answered on the first ring. He locked me out, Lena said, her voice shaking. Vincent locked me out of the system. When? I don't know. Sometime overnight. She heard Atlas exhale, sharp and angry. He's trying to cut you off from the evidence, but he's too late. We already pulled everything. Keller has copies. Atlas, if he locked me out. It means he's scared, Atlas said. And scared people make mistakes. 20 minutes later, a knock came at the safe house door. Lena looked through the peephole and saw Rachel Keller standing in the hallway, briefcase in hand. She opened the door. "Ms. Park." Keller stepped inside, her expression grave. "We have a problem." Lena's chest tightened. "What kind of problem?" Keller set her briefcase on the kitchen counter and opened it. Inside were stacks of documents, bank statements, wire transfer records. "I finished tracing the money last night. The shells Vincent created, Apex Summit, Cascade Bridgepoint, they weren't just siphoning thousands." "What do you mean?" Keller pulled out a spreadsheet covered in highlighted figures. "The initial transactions you found were small, test runs, but once Vincent confirmed the system worked, he scaled up. Over the past 4 months, he's moved $4.7 million through those shells." The number hit Lena like a fist. Million, Keller confirmed. And the money didn't stay in the shells. It moved through 6 different offshore accounts before landing in a trust registered in the Cayman Islands. Lena felt like the floor was tilting. Whose trust? That's the problem. The beneficial owner is hidden behind 3 layers of corporate anonymity. But Keller pulled out another document. "I found a pattern in the transfer timestamps. Every wire was initiated within 30 minutes of a Keen Labs board meeting." "Vincent was moving money while he was supposed to be in board meetings," Lena said slowly. "Not just Vincent." Keller's eyes locked on hers. "Someone was helping him. Someone with access to the same approval systems. And I think it's someone on the board." The words hung in the air like smoke. Lena's phone buzzed. Atlas. Board meeting moved up. 9 a.m. You need to be here. She showed Keller the message. "Then we move," Keller said. She pulled a flash drive from her briefcase. "Everything's on here. Transfer logs, Shell Corporation records, offshore account traces. When Atlas presents this, Vincent won't have anywhere to hide." "What if he fights back?" Keller's smile was thin. "Then we fight harder." Marcus drove them to Keen Labs in a black SUV with tinted windows, Keller in the passenger seat. Lena in the back with Kai strapped into a car seat Marcus had somehow procured overnight. The city slid past people on their way to work, coffee shops, opening the ordinary rhythm of a Friday morning. Lena felt like she was driving toward a cliff. They pulled into the underground parking garage at 8:42 a.m. Marcus parked near the elevator and turned to look at Lena. "You don't have to do this," he said quietly. "You could walk away right now. Take your son somewhere safe." Lena looked down at Kai, who was chewing on a stuffed elephant, his eyes bright and curious. She thought about the apartment she'd left behind, the watered-down formula, the midnight panic. She thought about the systems that had failed her, and how Vincent Harmon had built his own system to steal from people who couldn't fight back. "No," she said. "I really can't." They took the elevator to the 15th floor. The office was quieter than usual. Most employees hadn't arrived yet. But Lena could feel the tension in the air, thick and electric. Ava met them at the elevator, her face pale. "He's already here," she said. Lena's pulse spiked. "Vincent." "In the boardroom. He arrived 30 minutes ago with his lawyer." Atlas appeared at the end of the hallway, his expression carved from stone. He walked toward them, his eyes on Lena. "You ready?" he asked. "No," Lena said honestly. "But let's do it anyway." The boardroom was all glass and dark wood, with a conference table that could seat 20. 12 board members were already seated, men and women in expensive suits, their faces ranging from curious to concerned. At the far end of the table sat Vincent Harmon, flanked by a man in his 60s, with silver hair and a briefcase that probably cost more than Lena's car. Vincent looked up when Lena entered, that same cold smile. "Ms. Park," he said pleasantly. "What a surprise." Atlas moved to the head of the table. "Let's begin." Ava dimmed the lights and fired up the projector. The first slide appeared, "Internal audit findings. Confidential." 3 weeks ago, Atlas said, his voice steady, "I asked Lena Park to review our Q3 vendor reports. What she found is the reason we're here." He nodded to Lena. Her hands were shaking, but she stood and walked to the front of the room. Kai was with Grace in the nursery. She'd insisted on being here alone, professional, unshakable, even if she felt like she was breaking apart inside. "I identified a pattern." Lena began, her voice stronger than she felt. 4 shell companies registered in Delaware, all created within weeks of Mr. Harmon's promotion to CFO. Over 8 months, these companies invoiced Keen Labs for services that were never rendered. The total amount siphoned is $4.7 million. A murmur rippled through the room. One board member, a woman in her 50s, leaned forward. "That's a serious allegation." "It's a documented fact," Keller said, standing. She introduced herself and began walking the board through the evidence, transaction logs, wire transfers, the offshore accounts. Vincent sat perfectly still, his expression unreadable. When Keller finished, the boardroom was silent. Then Vincent's lawyer stood. "My client categorically denies these allegations," the lawyer said smoothly. "The companies in question are legitimate subcontractors. The invoices were processed through proper channels, and the suggestion that Mr. Harmon, who has served this company with distinction for 15 years, would engage in fraud is not only baseless, it's defamatory." "Then explain the offshore accounts," Atlas said coldly. Vincent finally spoke. His voice was calm, almost gentle. "I don't have to explain anything, because what Ms. Park has presented isn't evidence. It's a narrative built on coincidence and confirmation bias." He looked at Lena. "She's a single mother who was hired under unusual circumstances. She has no experience in forensic accounting, and she's been granted access to sensitive financial data without proper oversight." Lena's chest tightened. "That's not—" "In fact," Vincent continued, reaching into his briefcase, "I have evidence that suggests Ms. Park's analysis is not only flawed, it's been deliberately manipulated to target me." He pulled out a folder and slid it across the table to Atlas. "What is this?" Atlas said. "Background on your pet accountant." Lena's stomach turned to ice. Vincent's lawyer opened the folder and pulled out a document. Ms. Park was terminated from GenCorp, not for pregnancy discrimination as she claimed, but for falsifying expense reports. The company chose not to prosecute in exchange for her quiet resignation. "That's a lie," Lena said, her voice shaking. "I was let go because—" "There's an internal memo here," the lawyer continued, "signed by GenCorp's CFO. It details 3 instances of fraudulent reimbursement claims totaling $8,000. The room erupted. Board members leaned in, their expressions shifting from curious to suspicious. Lena felt like the walls were closing in. "That memo is fabricated," Keller said sharply. "I reviewed Ms. Park's termination file. There was no allegation of fraud." "Perhaps you should review more carefully," Vincent said. He looked at Atlas. "You hired a woman with a documented history of financial impropriety and gave her unrestricted access to our systems. And now she's accusing me, your CFO, a man who's never had so much as a parking ticket, of embezzlement. Does that sound reasonable to you?" Atlas's jaw was tight. "Ms. Park's background is irrelevant. The evidence speaks for itself." "Does it?" Vincent reached into his briefcase again. This time he pulled out a USB drive. "Because I have evidence too." He slid the drive across the table. "What's on it?" Atlas said, his voice dangerously quiet. "Emails," Vincent said. "Between you and an offshore consulting firm called Meridian Advisory. Emails that show you've been funneling Keen Labs' R&D budget into personal investments. Emails that suggest the very corruption you're accusing me of you've been committing for the past 2 years." The room went silent. Atlas stared at the USB drive. "That's impossible." "Is it?" Vincent's smile widened. "Plug it in. Let's see." Ava inserted the drive into the laptop connected to the projector. A folder opened filled with email files. She clicked the first one. The email appeared on the screen. From Atlas's company address. to info@meridianadvisory.com. Subject Q2 transfer confirmation. The message read, "Per our discussion, I've approved the 2.3 M transfer from Project Helix to the holding account. Wire details attached." Another board member gasped. "Atlas, what is this?" "It's fake." Atlas said, his voice hard. "I never sent that email." "The metadata says otherwise," Vincent's lawyer said. He stood and pointed to the screen. Date sent March 14, 2024. IP address matches Keen Labs' internal network. Device ID matches your laptop. Lena's mind raced. She stared at the projected email, her eyes scanning every detail, the timestamp, the sender address, the formatting. And then she saw it. "Wait," she said. Everyone turned to look at her. "The timestamp?" Lena said, her heart pounding. March 14, 2024, 11:47 p.m. "So," Vincent said. "So Atlas was in Tokyo that day," Lena said. She looked at Ava. "The board retreat. He gave the keynote on the 15th. Ava's eyes widened. She pulled out her phone and scrolled through her calendar. She's right. Atlas flew out on the 13th. He was in Tokyo from the 14th through the 17th. Lena pointed at the screen. That email was sent at 11:47 p.m. Seattle time, which would have been 3:47 p.m. Tokyo time the next day, the 15th. But the email is dated the 14th. The room shifted. Board members leaned forward. And, Lena continued, her voice stronger now, the IP address is internal, which means it was sent from inside this building. But Atlas wasn't in the building. He was on a plane. Vincent's smile faltered. "The metadata's wrong," Lena said. "Someone backdated the email to make it look like Atlas sent it, but they didn't account for the time zone difference." Keller stood abruptly. "Let me see that drive." She took the USB and plugged it into her own laptop, running a forensic analysis tool. The room waited in tense silence. After 2 minutes, Keller looked up. "These files were created 4 days ago," she said. "Not in March. The timestamps were manually altered." The board erupted. Voices overlapped, some angry, some confused. Atlas stood. "Vincent, you just presented forged evidence to this board in an attempt to discredit me." "This is absurd," Vincent said, but his voice had lost its smoothness. "That drive was sent to me anonymously. I had no way of knowing." "You knew," Atlas said coldly, "because you created it." Vincent stood, his face flushed. "You want to talk about evidence? Fine. Let's talk about how you've compromised this company by hiring an unqualified accountant and letting her run a witch hunt. Let's talk about how you've weaponized corporate resources for a personal vendetta." "Personal?" Atlas's voice was ice. "You stole nearly $5 million. "Prove it," Vincent snapped, "because everything your little analyst has presented is circumstantial. Shell companies. They could be legitimate. Offshore accounts. Coincidence. Wire transfers after board meetings. Correlation isn't causation." He looked around the table. "I've served this company for 15 years. I've built the financial infrastructure that made Keen Labs profitable. And you're going to throw that away because a desperate single mother with a sketchy employment history thinks she found a pattern in some spreadsheets." Lena felt the words like a slap. But before she could respond, Vincent turned back to Atlas. "You want a war," Vincent said quietly. "Fine, but understand this. I know where the bodies are buried. Every deal you've made, every corner you've cut, every board member who's taken money under the table to push your initiatives through." The room went dead silent. "3 people at this table," Vincent continued, "have financial exposure that would destroy their careers if it came to light. And I have documentation on all of it." He smiled. "So here's what's going to happen. You and your pet accountant are going to resign. Today. And in exchange, I'll keep those secrets buried." One of the board members, a man in his 60s with a face like granite, cleared his throat. Vincent, that sounds an awful lot like blackmail. It sounds like protecting this company, Vincent said smoothly. Atlas has let his personal feelings cloud his judgment. He's brought in outside investigators. He gestured at Keller. Without board approval, he's made serious allegations without due process, and now he's trying to force my resignation based on evidence that wouldn't hold up in traffic court. The evidence is solid, Keller said. Then take it to the DA, Vincent shot back. Oh wait, you can't, because you know it won't survive scrutiny. Atlas's hands were clenched into fists. You're not walking away from this. I'm not walking away, Vincent said. You are. You have until 5 p.m. today. Resign and this ends quietly. Refuse. He looked directly at Lena. And I'll make sure everyone knows exactly who Lena Park is. A woman who was fired for fraud. A woman who lost custody battles. I never lost custody, Lena said, her voice shaking. Kai's father isn't in the picture. Yet, Vincent said softly. But I wonder what a family court judge would think if they knew you'd been hired under false pretenses. If they knew you'd been living in unsafe housing. If they knew you'd been threatened and had to flee to a safe house, putting your infant son in danger. Lena's breath stopped. Vincent smiled. Family Services takes those things very seriously, and I have friends in that department. The threat hung in the air, sharp and vicious. Atlas moved around the table so fast, Vincent's lawyer flinched. You're done, Atlas said, his voice deadly quiet. You just threatened a witness in front of 12 people. I stated facts, Vincent said. You threatened her child. I expressed concern, Vincent corrected, as any responsible executive would. The board chairwoman, the woman in her 50s, stood. This meeting is over, Vincent. I'm suspending you pending a full investigation. Effective immediately. You're to surrender your badge and leave the premises. Vincent's face darkened. You can't. I can and I am, she said. This board will reconvene Monday morning to review all evidence. Until then, you're barred from company property and systems. Vincent stared at her, his jaw working. Then he looked at Atlas. You're making a mistake, he said quietly. You have no idea what you've started. He grabbed his briefcase and walked toward the door. His lawyer followed. At the threshold, Vincent stopped and looked back at Lena. Friday 5 p.m., he said. That's your deadline. After that, all bets are off. The door closed behind him. The boardroom erupted in overlapping conversations. Lena stood frozen, her heart hammering, Vincent's words echoing in her head. Family Services takes those things very seriously. Atlas appeared at her side. He can't touch Kai. I won't let him. You can't promise that, Lena whispered. Yes, I can. His voice was fierce. Because we're not backing down. We're going to finish this. Keller joined them. He's rattled. That outburst, the blackmail threat, it's all on record. The board heard it. But he's right about one thing, Lena said. The evidence is circumstantial. A good lawyer could shred it. Then we get better evidence, Atlas said. We set a trap. Lena looked at him. What kind of trap? We plant a memo, Keller said slowly, her eyes lighting up. Something irresistible. A fake document that suggests new audit findings. If Vincent's monitoring the system, and I'm betting he is, he'll access it. And when he does, we'll have proof he's breaching security protocols. Atlas nodded. We could timestamp the access logs, cross-reference them with his known locations, build an airtight case that he's illegally accessing restricted files. And if he takes the bait, Keller said, we'll know who else is helping him. Anyone who accesses that memo is part of the conspiracy. Lena's mind raced. It was risky. If Vincent suspected the trap, he'd walk away clean. But if he didn't, we have until 5 p.m. today, Lena said. That's not a lot of time. It's enough, Atlas said. He looked at Keller. Can you draft the memo? Give me an hour. Do it. Atlas turned to Ava. I need you to create a restricted folder in the audit system. Access only through specific credentials. and I need a full log of every person who touches it. Ava nodded. On it. Atlas looked at Lena. This is going to get worse before it gets better. I know, Lena said. And Vincent wasn't bluffing about going after Kai. I know that too. Atlas's expression softened. Then why are you still here? Lena thought about the midnight text, the $5,000, the boxes of formula and diapers. She thought about the job that had given her dignity when the world told her she didn't deserve it. She thought about every person Vincent Harmon had stolen from every system he'd corrupted. Because someone has to stop him, she said quietly. And I'm not walking away. Atlas held her gaze for a long moment. Then he nodded. Okay, he said. Then let's finish this. Keller worked fast. By noon, she had the memo drafted, a 2-page document titled Supplemental Audit Findings, Additional Shell Entities Identified. It detailed 3 more fictitious companies' transaction patterns that mirrored Vincent's real siphon, and a timeline that suggested the investigation was expanding beyond what he already knew. It's irresistible, Keller said, showing it to Atlas and Lena in his office. If Vincent's monitoring the system, he'll think we've found more dirt. He'll access it to see how much we know. And if he doesn't take the bait, Lena asked. Then we go to the DA with what we have and hope it's enough, Keller said. But my gut says he can't resist. Men like Vincent need to control the narrative. He'll want to know exactly what we've found so he can craft his defense. Atlas looked at Ava. The folder's ready. Restricted access audit trail enabled, Ava confirmed. Anyone who opens that memo will know. Device ID, IP address, timestamp, everything. Upload it, Atlas said. Ava's fingers moved across her laptop. The room was silent, except for the soft click of keys. Then she looked up. It's live, filed under internal audit. Q4 review, marked confidential. Lena's heart hammered. Now what? Now we wait, Atlas said. The waiting was agony. Lena sat at her desk, staring at her monitors, refreshing the access log every 30 seconds. Kai was in the nursery with Grace, and the silence of the office pressed against Lena's chest like a weight. At 12:47 p.m., her screen pinged. File accessed, supplemental audit findings. User V. Harmon device, iPhone 12 Pro. IP 47.23.156.888. External. Lena's breath stopped. She grabbed her phone and called Atlas. He took it, she said. When, 30 seconds ago, external IP. He's not in the building. Where's the IP located? Lena pulled up the geolocation data. Downtown. Looks like a law office. Brennan and Associates. His lawyers, Atlas said. He's already lawyering up. A pause. Anyone else access it? Lena refreshed the log. Her stomach dropped. Yes. 2 more hits. One from... She squinted at the screen. Device ID matches a board member, Margaret Chen. Margaret's on the audit committee, Atlas said, his voice tight. Who's the other? Unknown device. IP address is offshore. Looks like a VPN. Vincent's not working alone, Atlas said. Margaret's feeding him information, and whoever's behind that VPN is his partner. Lena's hands shook. What do? We document everything and we move fast. I'm calling an emergency session with legal. Get to my office, now. Lena ran. When she arrived, Atlas was on the phone, his voice clipped and urgent. Keller sat at the conference table, her laptop open, fingers flying across the keyboard. Atlas hung up. Legal's reviewing the access logs. If Margaret Chen accessed restricted files without authorization, that's a breach of fiduciary duty. And the offshore access? Lena asked. That's proof of conspiracy, Keller said, looking up. If Vincent's coordinating with someone outside the company using corporate resources, we can tie him to wire fraud. Atlas's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, and his face went hard. "What?" Lena said. He turned the phone toward her. An email from the board's ethics committee, formal complaint filed. Vincent Harmon versus Atlas Keene and Lena Park. Allegations, abuse of power, wrongful termination threat, fabrication of evidence harassment. Lena's vision blurred. "He's accusing us." "It's a preemptive strike," Keller said. "He knows we're building a case, so he's flipping the script. If the board investigates his complaint, it ties our hands. We can't take action against him while we're under investigation ourselves." "That's insane," Lena said. "He threatened my son in front of 12 witnesses." "And he'll claim it was taken out of context," Keller said. "He'll say he was expressing legitimate concern that you're unstable, that Atlas is manipulating you." Atlas slammed his hand on the desk. "Then we don't wait for the board. We go public." "Public?" Lena's pulse spiked. "We release a statement," Atlas said. "We disclose the investigation, the shell companies, the offshore accounts. We refer everything to the district attorney and let the authorities handle it." "That'll destroy the company's reputation," Ava said quietly. "Vincent's already destroying it," Atlas shot back. "At least this way we control the narrative." Keller nodded slowly. "If we go public, the DA will have to open an investigation. It becomes a criminal matter, not just corporate politics." "And Vincent loses his leverage," Atlas said. "He can't blackmail his way out of a federal investigation." Lena looked at him. "You're sure?" "No," Atlas said honestly. "But it's the only move we have left." He picked up his phone and called the company's communications director. "Sarah, I need a press release drafted in the next 2 hours. Full disclosure. Internal fraud investigation, referral to law enforcement, suspension of senior executive. And I need it vetted by legal before it goes out." He hung up and looked at Lena. "This is going to get ugly. Vincent will fight back. The press will dig into everything, your background, my decisions, every detail of this company." "I know," Lena said. "And there's a chance the DA won't prosecute, if the evidence isn't strong enough." "It is," Keller interrupted. She turned her laptop around. On the screen was a web of connections, wire transfers, shell companies, offshore accounts, all leading back to Vincent Harmon. "I've been building this since this morning. $4.7 million traced through 6 jurisdictions. Device logs showing unauthorized access. Email correspondence with fake vendors. This isn't circumstantial anymore. This is a federal case." Atlas stared at the screen. Then he nodded. "Okay," he said. "We go." At 2:15 p.m., Lena's burner phone rang. Unknown number. She answered. "Hello?" "Ms. Park." Vincent's voice was smooth calm. "I think we should talk." Lena's chest tightened. "I have nothing to say to you." "You will when you hear what I'm offering." A pause. "I know Atlas is planning to go public. I know you think you've found enough evidence to bury me. But you haven't thought this through." "I've thought it through just fine." "Have you?" Vincent's voice sharpened. "Because when the press digs into this story, they're going to find you. A single mother with a questionable employment history. A woman who was living in poverty until a billionaire swooped in and gave her a job. They'll call it a setup, a personal vendetta. They'll say Atlas hired you to fabricate evidence because he wanted to get rid of me." Lena's hands shook. "That's not true. Truth doesn't matter. Optics do." Vincent paused. "Here's what I'm offering. You resign. Today. You walk away with 6 months severance, a glowing reference, and a non-disclosure agreement. In exchange, you never speak about this investigation. You never testify. You disappear." "And if I don't?" "Then I make your life hell," Vincent said quietly. "I call family services. I tip off the press about your past. I make sure every future employer knows you were fired for fraud. And I make sure Atlas goes down with you." Lena's breath hitched. "You can't." "I already have," Vincent said. "I filed the ethics complaint 2 hours ago. By Monday, the board will be investigating both of you. And when they find out Atlas hired you without proper vetting, when they find out he gave you access to confidential files based on a personal relationship. There is no personal relationship, Lena said. Vincent laughed. Isn't there a billionaire sends you $5,000 in the middle of the night, gives you a job you're not qualified for, puts you up in a safe house, and you expect people to believe this is purely professional? The insinuation hit like a slap. You're disgusting. I'm practical, Vincent said. You have until 5 p.m. After that, the offer expires. Think about your son, Ms. Park. Think about what's best for him. The line went dead. Lena sat frozen, the phone pressed to her ear, Vincent's words echoing in her head. Think about your son. She walked to Atlas's office. He was on a call with the legal team. His voice tense. When he saw her face, he ended the call. What happened? She told him. Every word. When she finished, Atlas's expression was murderous. He called you directly. On the burner phone. I don't know how he got the number. He's desperate, Keller said, appearing in the doorway. Which means we're winning. Doesn't feel like winning? Lena said quietly. Atlas crossed to her. He's trying to isolate you. Make you think you're alone in this. But you're not. He paused. If you want to take the severance, I'll understand. You've already done more than... No, Lena said firmly. I'm not taking his deal. He'll make good on his threats. Let him try. Lena's voice shook, but her eyes were hard. I'm not walking away. Atlas held her gaze. Then he nodded. Okay, then we end this. At 3:30 p.m., the press release was ready. Sarah, the communications director, read it aloud in Atlas's office. Keen Labs has initiated an internal investigation into financial irregularities identified by our audit team. The investigation has uncovered evidence of unauthorized transactions totaling $4.7 million processed through shell companies created without board oversight. Vincent Harmon, Chief Financial Officer, has been suspended pending a full review. All findings have been referred to the King County District Attorney's Office and the FBI's Financial Crimes Division. Keen Labs is committed to full transparency and accountability. The room was silent. That's the nuclear option, Ava said quietly. It's the only option, Atlas replied. He looked at Sarah. Send it. To who? Everyone. Seattle Times, Wall Street Journal, TechCrunch, every financial reporter on our media list, and post it on the company website. Sarah hesitated. Atlas, once this goes out, there's no taking it back. I know. He looked at Lena. Last chance. You can still walk away. Lena thought about Kai asleep in the nursery. She thought about the apartment, the watered-down formula, the midnight text that had changed everything. She thought about Vincent's smile and the systems that protected men like him while crushing people like her. Send it, she said. Sarah hit publish. The response was immediate. Within 10 minutes, Lena's phone, her real phone, the one she'd turned back on, started buzzing with notifications. News alerts, social media posts, messages from former colleagues she hadn't spoken to in months. Keen Labs CFO, suspended in 4.7 M. Fraud investigation, Billionaire CEO, alleges financial misconduct by top executive whistleblower uncovers massive embezzlement scheme. Lena stared at the headlines, her heart pounding. Whistleblower. The word felt too big, too heroic. She wasn't a whistleblower. She was just someone who'd read the numbers and refused to look away. At 4:03 p.m., the district attorney's office called. Keller took the call, speaking in low tones for 15 minutes. When she hung up, her expression was unreadable. They're opening an investigation, she said. They want all the evidence by Monday morning. Bank records, wire transfers, access logs, everything. Will they prosecute? Atlas asked. They didn't say, but they're taking it seriously. Keller paused. They also want to interview Lena. Lena's stomach dropped. When? Monday afternoon. It'll be formal, recorded under oath. They'll ask you to walk them through everything you found. Can I bring a lawyer? You should, Keller said. And I recommend you get one who specializes in whistleblower protection. The word again. Whistleblower. At 4:47 p.m., Atlas's phone rang. He looked at the caller ID and his jaw tightened. It's the board chair. He answered. Margaret. Lena watched his face as he listened. His expression darkened. I understand, he said finally. Monday morning, I'll be there. He hung up. The board's calling an emergency session, he said. Monday 8 a.m. They're reviewing both investigations, ours and Vincent's ethics complaint. Can they fire you? Lena asked. They can try. Atlas's smile was grim. But I still hold the majority voting shares. They'd need a supermajority to force me out, and they don't have it. What about me? Lena said quietly. Atlas looked at her. What about you? I don't have voting shares. I don't have power. If the board decides I'm the problem, then I'll resign with you, Atlas said. The room went silent. Atlas, you can't, Ava started. Yes, I can, he said. I'm not throwing Lena to the wolves to save my job. If the board forces her out, I'm done. Lena's throat closed. You'd walk away from your own company. In a heartbeat, Atlas said. This company means nothing if it protects men like Vincent. At 4:58 p.m., Lena's burner phone rang again. Vincent. She put it on speaker. You made a mistake, Vincent said. His voice was ice. Going public was the stupidest thing you could have done. We'll see, Atlas said. Oh, you'll see, Vincent said. Because I just filed a countersuit. Defamation, wrongful termination, intentional infliction of emotional distress. I'm suing you personally, Atlas. And I'm suing Lena Park for $10 million. Lena's vision swam. You can't. I already did. The lawsuit was filed 20 minutes ago. You'll be served Monday morning. He paused. Hope you have a good lawyer, Ms. Park, because you're going to need one. The line went dead. Lena couldn't breathe. $10 million. She didn't have 10,000. If Vincent won, if a judge believed his version of events. He's bluffing, Keller said sharply. The lawsuit won't survive a motion to dismiss. Everything you did was in the scope of your employment. You can't be sued for doing your job. Can't I? Lena's voice cracked. He's got money lawyers' connections. I've got nothing. You've got the truth, Atlas said. And you've got me. Lena looked at him, tears burning her eyes. Why are you doing this? Why are you risking everything for me? Atlas was quiet for a moment. Then, because someone did it for me once. A long time ago, when I had nothing, someone saw me and decided I was worth the risk. He paused. You remind me that the world still has people who do the right thing even when it costs them everything. And I'm not letting Vincent Harmon take that away. Before Lena could respond, Ava's laptop pinged. We've got another access log hit, Ava said, turning the screen. Same restricted memo, different user. Who? Atlas said. Ava's face went pale. It's the board chair. Margaret Chen. The room went silent. Margaret accessed the fake memo, Keller said slowly. The one only Vincent should have known about. 15 minutes ago. Ava confirmed. Same external IP as Vincent's earlier access. Atlas's expression hardened. They're coordinating. Margaret's feeding Vincent information from the board. Which means the ethics investigation is rigged, Keller said. She's going to kill it before it starts. Not if we expose her first, Atlas said. He pulled out his phone and started typing. What are you doing? Lena asked. Sending the access logs to every board member except Margaret, Atlas said, with a very simple question. Why is our board chair accessing restricted audit files and sharing them with the executive under investigation? He hit send. Within 3 minutes, his phone started ringing. He ignored the calls, his expression carved from stone. At 5:34 p.m., an email appeared in Atlas's inbox. From the board's vice chair, David Park, emergency board vote. Called, Sunday, 6 p.m. Motion to remove Margaret Chen as board chair. Atlas read it aloud. The room erupted. They're moving against her, Ava said. Ava. Because they have to, Keller said. If Margaret's compromised, the entire ethics investigation is tainted. Atlas looked at Lena. We just took out Vincent's biggest ally. Lena's hands were shaking. What happens now? Now we wait for Monday, Atlas said. We give the DA everything we have. We let the board clean house, and we watch Vincent run out of places to hide. But at 6:15 p.m., as Lena was packing up to head back to the safe house, her phone rang. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer. But something made her pick up. Ms. Park. A woman's voice, professional. This is Karen Williams from Child Protective Services. I'm calling regarding a report filed this afternoon concerning your son, Kai Park. Lena's world stopped. What report? We received an anonymous tip alleging unsafe living conditions and potential neglect. I'm required to conduct a wellness check within 48 hours. Are you available tomorrow morning? Lena's voice shook. This is a false report. Someone's trying to... I understand this is upsetting, Karen said gently. But we take all reports seriously. I just need to verify that Kai is safe and being properly cared for. He is, Lena said. He's perfect. I'm sure he is, Karen said. This is just protocol. I'll need to see where you're living, check that there's adequate food and supplies, and speak with you briefly about your employment and childcare arrangements. It's routine. Routine. The word felt like a knife. When? Lena whispered. Tomorrow, 10 a.m. I have the address on file 2847 Riverside Drive, apartment 3C. Will you be there? That's not... Lena stopped. That was her old apartment. The place she'd fled from a week ago. I'm not living there anymore. Oh. Karen's tone shifted, cautious. Where are you currently residing? Lena's mind raced. If she said the safe house, CPS would ask why she needed protection. They'd ask about the threats, the investigation, the danger she'd put Kai in. They'd see exactly what Vincent wanted them to see, a mother too unstable to care for her child. I'm staying with a friend, Lena said. Temporarily. I'll need that address. Lena's vision blurred. Can I call you back? I need to... Ms. Park, if you don't provide a current address, I'll have to escalate this to my supervisor. And that could result in an emergency removal order until we can verify Kai's safety. Emergency removal. They could take Kai. Right now. Tonight. Please, Lena whispered. Please don't do that. Atlas appeared at her side. He'd heard enough. He took the phone from her hand. Ms. Williams, this is Atlas Keene. I'm Ms. Park's employer. She and her son are staying in corporate housing while she works on a sensitive investigation. I can provide documentation of the arrangement and references for Ms. Park's character. A pause. Mr. Keene, I appreciate your concern, but this is a CPS matter. I need to speak with Ms. Park directly. You are speaking with her, Atlas said. I'm simply clarifying the situation. Ms. Park is an exemplary employee and mother. This report is retaliatory, filed by someone we've just exposed for financial crimes. That's a serious allegation. It's the truth, and I'm happy to provide evidence. He paused. But Ms. Park will cooperate fully with your investigation. Tomorrow, 10 a.m., I'll text you the address of the corporate housing. You'll see that Kai is healthy, happy, and thriving. Another pause. All right, I'll expect Ms. Park tomorrow morning. And Mr. Keene, if this turns out to be a waste of the department's time, there will be consequences for filing a false report. Understood. He hung up and handed Lena her phone. She was shaking so hard she could barely hold it. He did this, she whispered. Vincent called CPS. He's trying to take Kai. He's trying to scare you, Atlas said. And it's not going to work. He put his hands on her shoulders. Tomorrow, you're going to show that caseworker exactly what an incredible mother you are. You're going to walk her through the safe house, show her Kai's room, his supplies, his routine, and you're going to prove that Vincent's report is garbage. What if she doesn't believe me? She will, Atlas said, because it's the truth. But as Lena drove back to the safe house that night, Kai asleep in the back seat, she couldn't stop seeing Vincent smile. You made a mistake, he'd said. And for the first time since this started, Lena wondered if he was right. Lena barely slept. She sat on the safe house couch until 3 in the morning, watching Kai breathe, terrified that somehow Vincent would find a way to take him before dawn. Every creak of the building made her jump. Every car that passed outside felt like a threat. At 5:47 a.m., she gave up on sleep and started cleaning. She scrubbed the kitchen counters, organized Kai's supplies, arranged his toys in the nursery corner. By the time Karen Williams knocked on the door at exactly 10 a.m., the safe house looked like a showroom. Lena opened the door with Kai on her hip. The caseworker was younger than she'd expected, mid-30s, with kind eyes and a worn leather portfolio. Ms. Park? Karen said. Thank you for meeting with me. Of course. Lena's voice was steadier than she felt. Please come in. Karen stepped inside, her gaze sweeping the space. Lena watched her take in the clean kitchen, the organized baby supplies, the foam playmat, where Kai's toys sat in neat rows. This is corporate housing, Karen asked. Yes. My employer provided it while I work on a project. Karen made a note. And how long have you been living here? A week. What prompted the move? Lena's chest tightened. Here, it was the moment where she had to explain that she'd fled because a billionaire CFO had threatened her child. I received threats related to my work. My employer felt it was safer if I relocated temporarily. Karen's pen paused. What kind of threats? Verbal. From an executive I'm investigating for fraud. Have you reported these threats to the police? Yes. They're documented as part of an ongoing investigation. Karen made another note. I'll need copies of those reports. I can get them to you today. Karen set down her portfolio and looked at Lena directly. Ms. Park, I'm going to be honest with you. The report we received alleged that you were living in unsafe conditions, that your son was malnourished, and that you disappeared without providing stable housing. Based on what I'm seeing, she gestured around the apartment. None of that appears to be true. Lena's breath caught. It's not. Kai is healthy. I have documentation from his pediatrician, growth charts, vaccination records, everything. I'd like to see those. Karen pulled out a checklist. I also need to verify your employment, check your food supplies, and observe your interaction with Kai. For the next 40 minutes, Lena walked Karen through everything. She showed her the fully stocked kitchen, Kai's medical records, the nursery setup at Keen Labs, photos of Kai with Grace. She demonstrated how she prepared his bottles, changed his diaper, played with him on the mat. Karen watched it all, making notes, her expression unreadable. Finally, she set down her pen. Ms. Park, I've seen hundreds of these cases, and I can tell you with confidence that this report was malicious. She closed her portfolio. Kai is clearly thriving. You're providing excellent care, and the living conditions here are well above standard. Lena felt her knees weaken. So I'm closing this case as unfounded. I'll file my report this afternoon. Karen paused. But I want you to know whoever filed this report, they wasted our department's time. That's a prosecutable offense. If you want to press charges. I do, Lena said immediately. Karen nodded. Then I'll include that recommendation in my report. The DA's office will handle it from there. After Karen left, Lena sat on the floor and cried huge, gasping sobs of relief. Kai crawled over and patted her face with his tiny hands, confused but concerned. "We're okay, baby," she whispered. "We're okay." Her phone rang. Atlas. "How did it go?" he asked. "Case closed. Unfounded." Lena wiped her eyes. "She's recommending charges against whoever filed the false report." "Good." Atlas's voice was fierce. "Vincent just added another felony to his list." "What happens now?" "Now we focus on the board meeting tomorrow. Margaret's removal vote is at 6 tonight. I'll keep you posted. The DA interview is Monday at 2. And Keller called this morning. She found something." Lena's pulse jumped. "What?" "She wouldn't say over the phone. She wants to meet at my place tonight. 7 p.m. Can you make it?" "I'll be there." At 6:34 p.m., Lena's phone buzzed with a text from Atlas. Margaret Chen removed as board chair. 9-2 vote. She resigned effective immediately. Lena stared at the message, her heart pounding. Vincent's biggest ally was gone. She texted back, "Does he know?" The reply came instantly, "If he didn't, before he does now." Atlas's penthouse was on the 40th floor of a building overlooking Elliott Bay. Lena had never been to his home. Their relationship had existed entirely within the glass walls of Keen Labs, and stepping into the space felt intimate in a way that made her nervous. The apartment was minimalist, all clean lines and floor-to-ceiling windows. Keller was already there, her laptop open on the dining table. Atlas answered the door in jeans and a gray Henley, his hair slightly mussed. "Come in," he said. "Kai asleep." Grace offered to watch him for a few hours. Lena stepped inside. What did Keller find? They joined Keller at the table. She turned her laptop toward them. "I spent the weekend tracing the offshore accounts," Keller said. "The Cayman Trust that received Vincent's siphoned funds, I finally cracked the ownership structure. And," Atlas leaned forward, "the beneficial owner is a woman named Patricia Harmon," Keller said. "Vincent's ex-wife." Lena's breath stopped. His ex-wife. They divorced 6 years ago. Messy split. She got the house in Mercer Island. He got the stock options. Keller pulled up a photo, a woman in her 50s, with platinum hair and cold eyes. But they stayed connected. She's listed as a consultant on 3 of the shell companies. And here's the kicker. Keller clicked to another document. Patricia sits on the board of a competitor, Gen Life Technologies. Atlas's face went hard. Vincent's been funneling Keen Labs money to a competitor through his ex-wife. Corporate espionage, Keller confirmed. He wasn't just stealing. He was funding Gen Life's R&D while sabotaging ours. Lena felt sick. How much did Gen Life get? $3.2 million of the $4.7 million total. Keller pulled up bank records. The rest went to Vincent and Patricia's personal accounts. They were splitting the take. "Can we prove it?" Atlas asked. "Every transaction's documented. Wire transfers, emails between Vincent and Patricia, meeting notes where they discussed which Keen projects to target." Keller smiled grimly. "The DA's going to love this." "What about Margaret Chen?" Lena asked. "Was she involved?" Keller nodded. "Margaret owns shares in Gen Life. Not enough to trigger disclosure requirements, but enough to benefit from Vincent's sabotage. She was feeding him board intelligence in exchange for a cut of Gen Life's profits." Atlas stood and walked to the window, his hands in his pockets. 15 years, he said quietly. "Vincent spent 15 years building my trust, and the whole time he was selling me out." Lena wanted to say something comforting, but the words felt inadequate. Keller closed her laptop. "The DA interview tomorrow, they're going to ask you to walk through everything. Timeline, evidence, how you connected the dots. You ready?" "I think so," Lena said. "You'll do fine." Keller packed her briefcase. "I'll see you both tomorrow. 2 p.m., King County Courthouse." After Keller left, Lena stood awkwardly in Atlas's living room. The silence felt heavy. "Can I get you something?" Atlas asked. "Coffee, water." "I should probably go," Lena said. "Let you get some sleep before tomorrow." "Lena." He crossed to her. "You don't have to leave." She looked up at him, her heart hammering. "Atlas, I'm not asking for anything," he said quickly. I don't want you to be alone tonight. Not after everything Vincent put you through." Lena's throat tightened. "Why are you doing this?" "Doing what?" "Protecting me, fighting for me, risking everything." Her voice cracked. "You barely know me." Atlas was quiet for a long moment. Then, "I know you texted a stranger at midnight asking for $50 to feed your son. I know you could have taken my money and disappeared, but instead you showed up and did the work. I know you found a fraud scheme that should have taken a forensic team months to uncover, and I know—" He paused. "I know you're the bravest person I've ever met." Lena couldn't breathe. "I'm not brave. I'm terrified." "That's what makes it brave." His eyes held hers. "You're terrified, and you're doing it anyway." The space between them felt charged electric. Lena thought about the midnight text, the boxes of formula, the job that had given her back her dignity. She thought about how Atlas had never once made her feel small, never treated her survival as weakness. "Thank you," she whispered, "for seeing me." "Always," Atlas said. Monday morning arrived gray and cold. Lena dressed in her only professional suit and took the bus to the King County Courthouse Chi with Grace at Keen Labs. Atlas met her in the lobby, along with Keller and a lawyer named David Park, the board's vice chair, who'd apparently volunteered to represent Lena pro bono. "You don't have to do this," Lena told David. "Yes, I do," David said. "Vincent's been poisoning this company for years. Someone should have stopped him sooner." The DA's office was all fluorescent lights and tired carpet. Assistant District Attorney James Chen, no relation to Margaret, greeted them in a conference room lined with boxes of evidence. "Ms. Park," Chen said, shaking her hand. "Thank you for coming. This shouldn't take more than a few hours." It took 4. Chen walked Lena through every detail, how she'd found the first shell company, how she'd traced the transactions, how she'd connected Vincent to the offshore accounts. He asked about the threats, the fake email Vincent had tried to plant the CPS report. Lena answered every question, her voice steady. David interjected when needed clarifying legal points, protecting her from overreach. At 5:47 p.m., Chen closed his notebook. "Ms. Park, I'm going to be straight with you. This is one of the most comprehensive fraud cases I've seen in a decade. The evidence you've compiled, it's airtight." He looked at Atlas. "And Mr. Keene, your decision to self-report and cooperate fully, that matters. It shows institutional integrity." "Does that mean you're prosecuting?" Atlas asked. Chen nodded. "Vincent Harmon will be charged with wire fraud, embezzlement, corporate espionage, and filing a false CPS report. Patricia Harmon will be charged as an accomplice. Margaret Chen is under investigation for breach of fiduciary duty." "When?" Keller asked. "Warrants will be issued tomorrow morning." Chen stood. "I'd recommend you prepare for media attention. This is going to be a high-profile case." They left the courthouse at dusk. Lena's hands were shaking from adrenaline and exhaustion. Atlas walked her to the parking garage where Marcus was waiting with the SUV. "You did it," Atlas said quietly. "You actually did it." "We did it," Lena corrected. "No." Atlas shook his head. "You found the pattern. You built the case. You stood up when everyone told you to back down." He paused. "I want to offer you something." Lena's pulse jumped. "What?" "Head of Internal Audit. Full department budget autonomy. You'd report directly to me and your mandate would be simple. Make sure what Vincent did never happens again." Lena stared at him. "Atlas, I've been working here for 3 weeks. And in 3 weeks, you've done what our audit team missed for 8 months. His eyes held hers. "I'm not offering this because I feel sorry for you. I'm offering it because you're the best person for the job. I don't know if I'm ready for... You are, Atlas said firmly. And you'll have full support, hiring authority, training budget, whatever you need. Lena's throat tightened. 3 weeks ago, she'd been watering down formula and texting strangers for help. Now, a billionaire was offering her a position that could change her life. Okay, she whispered. Yes. Atlas smiled a real smile, the kind that transformed his entire face. Good. We'll make it official after the board meeting Wednesday. Tuesday morning, Lena woke to her phone buzzing with news alerts. Former Keen Labs CFO arrested in $4.7M fraud scheme. Corporate espionage ring exposed. Competitor allegedly funded by stolen money. Whistleblower credits. Single mom. Who just read the numbers. She scrolled through the articles, her heart pounding. Photos of Vincent in handcuffs being led from his Mercer Island home. Statements from the DA. Quotes from Atlas about institutional reform. And buried in the third paragraph of the Seattle Times piece. The fraud was uncovered by Lena Park, a biochem analyst hired just weeks before the discovery. Her phone rang. A number she didn't recognize. Ms. Park, this is Amanda Cruz from the Seattle Times. I'm writing a feature on the Keen Labs case, and I'd love to get your perspective. Lena hung up. 2 minutes later, another call. Then another. She texted, Atlas Press won't stop calling. His reply, refer them to our communications team. You don't owe anyone your story. But Lena thought about all the people who'd ever felt powerless against systems designed to crush them. She thought about the midnight texts no one answered, the jobs that disappeared, the help that never came. She called Amanda Cruz back. I'll give you 15 minutes, Lena said. But I'm not the story. The story is what happens when companies choose accountability over protecting powerful men. The interview ran Wednesday morning. It was fair, factual, and made Lena sound far more heroic than she felt. But the final quote was hers. I didn't do this to be brave. I did it because someone finally gave me the tools to fight back. And now we're building systems so the next person doesn't have to fight alone. The board meeting that afternoon was anticlimactic. With Margaret gone and the evidence public, there was no appetite for protecting Vincent. The board voted unanimously to implement new audit controls, triple oversight, decentralized approval pathways, mandatory external reviews. Atlas presented Lena's appointment as head of internal audit. No one objected. Afterward, Atlas found her in the hallway. There's something else, he said. The corporate housing, it's yours as long as you need it. But I also had HR pull together some options if you want to find your own place. We can cover first and last month's rent security deposit, whatever helps. Lena's eyes burned. You don't have to. I want to, Atlas said. You've given this company a second chance. Let me help you build something permanent. 2 weeks later, Lena signed a lease on a 2-bedroom apartment in Fremont. Hardwood floors, a kitchen with a window, a nursery with space for Kai to grow. She moved in on a Saturday, and Grace helped her unpack while Kai explored his new room. You did good, Mama, Grace said, arranging stuffed animals on Kai's shelf. Real good. Lena looked around at the furniture she'd bought without checking her bank account first, at the fridge full of real food, at the life she was building brick by brick, and felt something she hadn't felt in years. Safe. Monday morning, she arrived at Keen Labs with Kai and a plan. Her new office was on the 16th floor, glass-walled and bright. A team of 3 analysts would start next week. The audit system overhaul was scheduled for implementation in 30 days. At 11 a.m., Atlas stopped by. Settling in? He asked. Getting there. Lena gestured to the whiteboards covered in flowcharts and system diagrams. I'm mapping out the new approval pathways. Triple-check system rotating auditors' blind verification protocols. Atlas studied the boards. This is good work. It's necessary work, Lena corrected. Vincent got away with it for so long because no one was watching. We're going to make sure everyone's watching. Everyone including me, Atlas said. I meant what I told the board. No one bypasses the trail, not even the CEO. Lena looked at him. You really believe that? I have to, Atlas said. Because the minute I think I'm above accountability, I become Vincent. He paused. That's why I need people like you. People who aren't afraid to call out the emperor when he's naked. I'll always tell you the truth, Lena said quietly. I know. His eyes held hers. That's why I trust you. The moment stretched, charged with something Lena couldn't quite name. Then Kai squeaked from his playpen, and the spell broke. That night, Lena sat in her new apartment, Kai asleep in his crib, and opened her laptop. She pulled up a blank document and titled it, The Accident That Wasn't. Then she started writing. About the midnight text. About the stranger who'd answered. About the job that became a lifeline, and the fraud that became a calling. She wrote until her hands cramped, until Kai stirred at 2 a.m. needing a bottle. She fed him in the rocking chair by the window, watching the city lights blur into watercolor smears. We made it, baby, she whispered. We actually made it. 3 months later, Vincent Harmon pleaded guilty to 12 federal charges. Sentencing was set for August 15 to 20 years. Patricia took a plea deal and testified against him. Margaret Chen was disbarred and banned from serving on corporate boards. Gen Life Technologies faced a shareholder lawsuit and SEC investigation. Their stock tanked. Keen Labs' stock, meanwhile, climbed. Investors responded to the transparency, the accountability, the systems that proved a company could survive, exposing its own rot. Lena's audit team grew to 12 people. They uncovered 2 more minor fraud attempts in the first quarter, both caught within days, both resolved internally. The board sent Lena a formal commendation. The Seattle Business Journal named her to their 40 under 40 list. She ignored most of the attention and focused on the work. On a Friday in June, Atlas stopped by her office at 5:30 p.m. You have plans tonight, he asked. Lena looked up from her laptop. Does laundry count as plans? Cancel them. I want to show you something. He drove them to a new building under construction in South Lake Union. The sign out front read, Keene Community Center, opening fall 2025. What is this? Lena asked. A project I've been working on, Atlas said. He led her inside past construction crews and scaffolding. Child care for working parents, job training programs, financial literacy classes, legal aid clinic. He stopped in what would become the main lobby. I'm calling it the Park Initiative. After you. Lena's breath caught. Atlas, you can't. I already did. He turned to face her. You taught me something, Lena. That dignity isn't charity. That systems matter more than saviors. That community is a verb. He paused. This center, it's not about me writing checks. It's about building infrastructure so people don't have to text strangers at midnight. Lena's eyes burned. Why name it after me? Because you're the one who showed me what's possible when we stop treating survival as a personal failure and start treating it as a systems problem. His voice softened. And because 3 months ago, you trusted me with $50 worth of hope. This is me trusting you with something bigger. Lena looked around the half-built space at the future, taking shape in steel and drywall, and felt the weight of what they'd built together. Not just the center, not just the audit systems, but the proof that the world could be different. Thank you, she whispered. Thank you, Atlas said, for teaching me what accountability actually looks like. They stood there in the construction dust and fading light, and Lena felt the shift, the moment when the professional became personal, when gratitude became something deeper. Atlas, she said quietly. That first night, the text, why did you answer? He smiled. Because I remembered what it felt like to need help and be invisible. And I thought maybe this time someone shouldn't be. He paused. I didn't know it would change everything. Did it? Lena asked. Change everything. Atlas looked at her, his expression open and honest. Yes, completely. The silence between them felt like a question. Ask me again in person, Lena said, echoing the last line she'd written in her document. Ask you what? If I trust you. Atlas stepped closer. Do you? Yes, Lena said. Completely. He smiled, and it transformed his entire face. Then maybe if you're open to it, we could have dinner sometime. Not as employer and employee, just... I'd like that, Lena said. Her phone buzzed. A text from Grace Kais asking for Mama. When are you coming to get this sweet boy? Lena showed Atlas the message, and they both laughed. Rain check on dinner, Atlas said. Absolutely. He walked her back to the car. The drive to Keen Labs was quiet, comfortable. When Marcus pulled up to the building, Atlas turned to her. Lena, whatever this becomes, whatever we build, I want you to know it's real. Not because I saved you, but because you saved yourself. And then you saved all of us. I didn't save anyone, Lena said. I just read the numbers. You read the truth, Atlas corrected. And you refused to look away. That's everything. Lena went inside and collected Kai from Grace. He babbled happily, reaching for her face with sticky fingers. She held him close and thought about the woman she'd been 3 months ago, terrified, desperate, alone. That woman would never believe what came next. On her way out, Lena paused at the lobby windows. The city stretched before her, bright and vast. Somewhere out there, someone was probably sending a desperate text right now, asking for help they didn't expect to receive. Lena thought about the systems they were building, the center, the audit protocols, the proof that accountability could win. And she thought, maybe next time someone will answer. Her phone buzzed, a text from Atlas. Saturday, 7 p.m. That Italian place in Ballard. If you're free. Lena smiled and typed back, I'm free. She walked out into the June evening, Kai on her hip, the future opening before her like a door she'd been invited to walk through. No strings, no charity, just the honest work of building something better, together.